So, I don't have any kids yet that I'm aware of. But if I did, and I found out that, maybe tomorrow Disney decides that they just want to do Star Wars and Marvel and then just call it a day and stop making kids movies, and if by some insane chance Netflix decided to take up the mantle and like, hey, we're going to be the, premier place for kids movies to come out, I would be like, really? But also at the same time, I have to say, would not be upset by that. Not even a little bit. Cue the music. What's happening, everybody? How's it going? How's everyone doing? Welcome back. So today we're talking about The Babysitter's Guide to Monster Hunting. Admittedly, I didn't know a whole lot about the movie going into it, but I have to tell you, title of the movie had me a little worried. Because anytime a movie has some overly annoyingly long title, I can't help but think to myself that either the director or the writer is incredibly pretentious and just outright full of themselves, probably most of the time. And it's not necessarily because it's a kid's movie, but at the same time, movies with really long titles, I'm just kind of like, why? Why? Because the main function of a film's title is essentially just so you can differentiate this movie from whatever 50 million other movies that exist. That's really all it's there for. In other words, it's so that if you're talking to somebody about a movie and you're like, oh, it's that movie, that Tom Cruise movie where he punches things and he runs around a lot and stuff. And if a person hears that, they're gonna think, which one? Because there's like 20 of those. In reality, you're talking about Minority Report, but they would never know that because not many people have seen that one, and it's really underrated. You should watch that. But in regards to this movie, as it turns out, this movie is not really that pretentious, not even a little bit. It's just really, really, really self-aware, and you gotta respect that, you know what I mean? But anyway, the overall plot of the movie revolves around a babysitter whose child gets kidnapped by a bunch of monsters, and then lo and behold, there is a secret order of babysitters that goes out to rescue kidnapped children from monsters, and yeah, that's a thing. So then our main character, played by Tamara Smart, gets taken around by her, I guess you could call it her babysitter mentor, I guess? And then they go off on little, like, monster catching adventure-y type things where you learn all sorts of mystical, crazy, cool things, and there's a bunch of action and stuff. And there's the subplot, the main character is like kind of dorky at school and her parents are like forcing her to babysit this kid because it's her mom's boss, and there's some other stuff like that, but they don't dwell on it too long, which I also admire about this movie. But yeah, you pretty much get the idea. And if you couldn't already tell by what I've said so far, I actually kind of enjoyed this movie. It's not really the most well-made movie in the world, but it was oddly charming. It was a little bit funny. It had just enough zing to it to keep me entertained, which is a lot more than I can say about that Mulan remake that came out recently. But the thing to remember is that this is first and foremost kind of for the kids, so the CGI is not going to be really that great. A lot of the acting is either going to be mediocre, bad, or kind of wooden, and also the movie's probably going to be a little bit cheesy and also very colorful as far as visually, but you know what? None of that stuff really bugged me that much because everything else kind of fell into place exactly how I kind of wished it would. And one of the big reasons why is because I mentioned earlier, this movie is really, really self-aware. Like, for example, the bad guy, who quite appropriately is played by Tom Felton, and if you don't know who that is, he played Malfoy in the Harry Potter movies. Love that guy. Not really. But you could tell he was clearly having a lot of fun with this movie, just messing around, just having a laugh. That's it. But at one point he has to start singing because he has to put this child to sleep to steal his nightmares or something, and he starts singing and it's all like really, it's not good singing because of course it's not good. And normally I would just kind of roll my eyes and say, oh great, what am I in for? But the next moment, the kid calls the villain out for singing like an idiot. And I was like, that's perfect. Like, what more could I ask for? And also, incidentally, that little kid was not an awful actor. I mean, I don't like to criticize little kids acting even when they are bad, but at the same time, the kid wasn't annoying. He was actually pretty tolerable. So it's like, yeah, score one for the home team, And yes, the script is kind of cheesy and kind of corny, but it's met with some of these very meta moments where it's just like calling itself out for some of the dumb things that are in it, and that kind of made it okay. As a matter of fact, one of the characters actually describes their outfit as being meta in the film. So it's like they're throwing it right in your face. It's like, you know what? We know what this is. Like, come on. I said it once, I'll say it again. I respect that. Not all of the comedic bits in the movie worked, but some of them actually worked surprisingly well. And part of it was the performance, but a big part of this movie was actually the editing. This movie is actually very well edited, and it wasn't too long either. Like, this movie's $1:30 at the very most. And by $1:30, I mean an hour and 30, not 130 minutes, because then that would just be ridiculous. And another thing that actually surprisingly worked well was the music. I actually really liked it. And sure, some of the songs were just, you're very, very bland, average, kind of poppy, very a very beat-heavy electronica kind of music, but you know what? It worked. I don't know why. It just kind of worked. And the classical stuff too, because it wasn't overpowering. It wasn't overly trying to take attention away from the actual story, because some music scores tend to do that. And this movie didn't do that. But at the end of the day, the movie wasn't super memorable. It wasn't anything spectacular. Like, if you asked me right now, I couldn't tell you any of the characters' names, because they're just that forgettable. And they also, again, this is totally self-aware, they very blatantly set this movie up for a sequel. They're just like, hey, guess what's gonna come next if we get the chance? But you know what? Way worse films have tried way harder with that, so I was kind of like, you know what? All right, we'll let this one slide, you know? But yeah, guys, as far as presumably mediocre films go, this movie was not that bad, and I found myself kind of entertained by it. I probably won't ever watch it again, but if I myself had to actually babysit somebody else's kids and they wanted to watch this movie, I would say, you know what? Yeah, let's throw it on. Although tolerable doesn't automatically mean awesome, I think for a score out of 10, I think I'm gonna give it like a 6.7. It was just entertaining enough, it was just solid enough to be kind of watchable, so you know what? If you're absolutely insanely bored, it's not the worst way to spend an hour and a half, so there you go. But anyway, guys, those are my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Did you see this movie? Have you heard of it? Hop in the comments, let me know what's up. And as per usual, if you like this video, give me a like, subscribe, share, hit the bell, do all that other YouTube shenanigans, and I will catch you guys next time.